from New York. You're a number one.
Hey everybody, can everybody hear me? If so, just type it into the chat. Great. Hope everybody's well. Indeed, peace to everybody. Anybody have any questions about anything before we start? Yeah, can you explain the Black Hitler on people, and how does that explain demons like Mengele and all these people? It's a great joint, basically, to get into. Basically, you know how you have a society and they carried like two sets of books? Well, it's possible, or like how you can have two wars connected that's taking place simultaneously in two different places. That's basically how they were able to kind of like swap places, if you will, through the demol what do you say? First the demoralization, then the demolishing of the so-called ruling class, because most people in these European families and stuff had never seen any of the real European families that actually really ran them. Most of them carried on affairs and things like that with common people all the time, but the common people never knew who they really was, and they would play like different roles, if you will, to be able to foster their real agendas, whatever that is. There's a book, always is a book. There's a book called Rebels, Pretenders, and Imposters by Clive Cheeseman and Jonathan Williams. And there's a brief section in there that talks about the Nazis and specifically the Weimar Republic. Well, the Weimar Republic was like the intermediary government before the Nazis came in, and it was run basically by the same type of people that run Hollywood today. And they employ like mad actors and stuff like that. So one of the actors allegedly was a dude named Mohammed Hossein, who himself had descended from the the so-called black Germans, or the Schwarzer, the Deutschland Schwarzer, and they created that. So that's where a lot of that came from. And so using the decoy system and the what they call artistic license, or romance propaganda, they were able basically to put the newly implanted people who just appeared on the shores of every continent around the same time, and nobody knows, none of them had no knowledge of their parents or whatever, where they came from, and these people then assumed position of these cleared out cities and these cleared out areas that we were basically in conflict with them with. And then history paints those things as World War I, World War II. But you could take it farther back to even Napoleon, if we look at him as an individual person, because according to the DNA on him, it go back to E1B1, which is just like Hitler, allegedly E1B1, and that's all sub-Saharan African. So, you know what I mean? The data on it is out there. It may explain why he talked about the Jews in America being the jewels that were being exploited by the same oligarchy that was running today. That don't make the white one or the black one a good person. It just means that there may have been dual situations going on. Like everybody talks about the SS, and then everybody that talks about what they call the Wolfenstocking, which is like the SS, and then you had a parallel society called the Thule Society or the Thule Society, and then within that or above that, you had something called the Black Sun Society. You see what I'm saying? And everybody uses those interchangeably when it may not have really been like that. That's just how they, after assimilating into the story, you know what I'm saying, put themselves in it. And then basically replaced all of the ruling family with imposters, which when you read the book, I'll show the cover at the end of the class. You read the book, you see what I'm saying? Like, or everybody that's in there is not who is supposed to really be in there. Just like the Egyptians today is not the same Egyptians that's there today, because the level of disrepair that the country, just Egypt as a country, not trying to diss Egyptians, but the state of their country as opposed to our country, you know what I mean? Like it's not parallel. Like they don't have the same reverence, which proves in terms of cultural and ethical situation, they don't really have the same moral connection to those things. Because then when you look at the pyramids in contrast to, you know what I mean, the level of desolation that's around there, you really seeing like, if y'all was really industrious people that y'all saying that y'all had came from these, then why come you haven't built nothing? Even us in our fallen state, look at all the shit we have created. While the empire was falling, during the empire, after, while we was in so-called slavery. Like, ask yourself this: how is it that people, you had cases where people were enslaved, right, or were slaves, and at the same time they got like patents for shit? Like, how does how did that work? How does that work? How did this? How is it that it was just? Isn't it convenient that all the slaves had the same names as the masters? And then we just take for granted that say, oh well, that's because the white man named them after them, and those are French names, and this, and that. But then when we look up who the old French was during these time periods, all of these niggas was melanated. You know what I mean? The opposite of who is that today. And again, this is not taken away from anybody who was French, Caucasian French, or white, or whatever, that type of European today. It's just saying that there is a difference between who was there initially and then who wound up there based upon the disinheritance and the dispossession of a whole group of people. That happened to start around the same time. When was that? 1492, or what we would say is 492. And then ever since then, they've been having us deal with this whole illusionary aspect of reality to coincide with the one that was created before us by capitalist billionaires who somehow were connected to whatever society or group that was able to help bring this shit along. I mean, who put all of these children on these orphan trains? And then when you read certain old stories about it, they say, oh well, all these children was kidnapped. So all of these white children was just kidnapped. Millions of white children just was all kidnapped from different countries and then just shipped to other countries they wasn't from, and then somehow miraculously learned to speak the language in the new country that they from. Like, how does that work? How does that make sense? It makes sense if you're looking at it from the perspective of a long-term operation that was conducted in a fashion of occupational warfare through incrementalism and the disassociation of the populace of knowledge of the event even happening. That's what I'm saying. Like, why you think it took us so long? Like growing up in school, like in my era, like we never knew about Moors and you know what I mean. Like you would hear like African kings and stuff, but they would always, even the conscious ones would only show you like basic, like, oh, King Tut and like Shaka Zulu and shit like that, but they didn't give you no context as to how that's worked with you as a so-called Black American. So, it's more questions than answers. But what we can say is that all of the modern characters that we date history by most likely have been um, incorporated into the structure if they weren't created by the structure itself. You know what I'm saying? Democracy is the byproduct of Rome. You know what I mean? And Rome is the byproduct of what they're calling Greece, which we know is really ancient Greek, right? Which they then demonetized to Crete or Aegean, right? Or Peloponnesian, because it's like you have a mother society and then you'll have a satellite society that leaves that and then sets up their own society. So that's basically what you have. You have a group of people who are part of a certain language group over here and then eventually went over there in super ancient times and then eventually stayed, you know what I mean? And then developed their own society from that. So there's certain characteristics that remind them of how the hunter gatherers or the people here today, but they most likely even went into places that were already built by people who was already there, who then moved on for whatever reason, you know, and then the left behind remnants of that then create whatever's supposed to be there. But what keeps it all going is the story. The manipulation of the story or the narrative is what allows the actual function of the historical context to exist. You know what I'm saying? So we heard when we was little kids that uh, George Washington, I cannot tell a lie, cut down a cherry tree. Right? We heard about him cutting down a cherry tree, and that was supposed to be honorable because he didn't want to lie about doing it. We didn't know that that was an allegory for the taking down of the Moorish flag. You know what I mean? In 1774, at the old capital of Philadelphia, aka Marrakesh or Morocco. You know what I mean? In terms of the imperial seat being over here at the time, we didn't know that that's what that really meant. And then those of us that did, the people was most likely the people telling us, and they keeping the secret. They not doing that because they can only talk about it in the lodge, which they probably never do, because based upon how they taught, they probably didn't even get the allegory of that. So you see what I'm saying? It's a cyclical thing. You know what I mean? But, well, I should say, what keeps it steady and what keeps it going constantly is the attention given to the people based upon how the narrative is structured and how it's presented to them. That's the most important thing, because that's why Salisbury was so successful with the abolitionist African slave plays that eventually became part of the Americana lexicon, to the point that people actually believe that they were enslaved and brought over by boats, even though they have no evidence or pictures of that. They only have drawings and sketches, but then they could show you bones and shit from, you know what I mean, before anybody was here. So what's the story on that? They show you megalithic structures that was here, you know what I mean, for mad long. But what keeps it going is the participation and everybody's attention going to the obvious situation. So everybody talks about, Oscar being Ptah, right? Ptah is the god of creation. He's holding the jet pillar in front of himself, right over left, showing the dominance of good over evil and the uh, transparency of the spinal column or the jet pillar. Because technically, you're not supposed to see this because this is behind you. This represents your spine. But if he's showing you your spine in this front, he's showing you that everything that's behind is ahead, right? And he's dripped in gold, and you notice he has the scales. He's also, but the name, they don't call it a potato, they call it a Oscar, right? They say, oh, it's named after Oscar, Delamrom, or whatever fake person they want to ascribe it to, but it's actually an anagram for Sokar. That's who it is. That's who the god is on the left. That's who the Oscar actually is. And at the temple of Sokar, this is what the old entrances was supposed to look like. You're supposed to have the circle with the vector, what they call the chevron, you know what I'm saying? Because this is the Masonic square and compass. You see what I'm saying? With him in the middle in the altar, or what you call the pit, or the well, or the wailing well. right? Where both sides can come unto the portal and then, become a part of the whole mythos, because that's why it's opened up into the sky. See that? See all of the abyss, basically. See what I'm saying? So this is the portal. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, so they was going for some master number type energy. This is also representative of a beetle, though, of this of the beetle, which represents real, resurrection. So it's all Osirian. You know what I mean? It's all Osirian type, death cult, resurrection type. You know what I mean? Rituals that they use to do that. So that's why you can't get past it, because they'll always just recast it. You know what I'm saying? Because they can't get beyond the point of the singularity, as I've been saying. And that singularity is the God. That's God to them. You know what I'm saying? But that singularity is the highest essence of what we have manifested or been created from. So all of the stories, you see, are really all the stories about how we all came into being and then were basically downgraded to become the food for these things that these men and women want us to worship. You know what I mean? Like Doichi just came out and said that her biggest red flag when it comes to men is number one, them being men, and number two, them being straight. So straight men, right? That's the new enemy, namely straight black men. Why? Because, well, if I can't have one for myself, and because I'm a slave or a puppet, sex slave to the industry, you know what I mean? I gotta toe the line. And toeing the line is always letting them know that you are willing to go against your own to show allegiance, you see what I'm saying, for the pittance that they'll give you, right? Which is what? Fame, which is people like me sitting there talking about. You know what I mean? So in that, she gets what she wants, however, not the way that she expects. Because now, this has now created a whole nother thing. You got to stand on all of that. That's why if you notice a lot of these videos they make now with these female rappers or whatever, they're always killing black men in them. I don't know if you've noticed this. But in all their videos, they killing black men, getting them locked up, shooting them, smacking them in the face, right? Because that's the type of man that they want. You understand? Because that type of man is what the system needs. You understand what I'm saying? The system needs more people that's willing to toe the line for it in that way. And so we are then forced to deal with the beast nature of how these people um display their worship. You know what I'm saying? So there are some schools of thought that say that these things, which are basically, depending on what school of thought you thought, they're basically griffins, basically. You know what I mean? But they got human heads. So this is a zoomorphic image, right? But let's say, okay, take it from what it's trying to relate to you outside of the literal, right? So in the literal context, this is probably an example of some sort of gene grafting, some sort of beast monocle or whatever that these niggas was experimenting to create the things that they was doing. You know what I mean? Which led further into their destruction, because you can't keep creating abominations on the earth and expect them to exist properly, But if we look at it from another perspective, from the metaphysical perspective, this would then represent the four corners of man, or the four corners of the world, represented by Virgo, Taurus, Scorpio, and Virgo, Taurus, Scorpio, and I always forget the last one. It's fire, air, water, earth, basically. So essentially, Um, they are the elements that are working in unison to uplift those who don't understand what this reality really is. So, mythic ideology and iconography was sometimes used to reinforce that based on how the society structured and how the society molded the story about how it came into existence. Because all these societies is built on the last ones. It just so happens what I think makes the Moorish society, the Moorish culture so interesting is that we were the last of the so-called going from the ancient world into what would become from the ancient world into the classical world, you know what I mean, and then from the classical world into the cathode world. We get the rise of all of these etheric buildings and structures and shit like that that we are, inhabiting. So images like this is basically trying to show you that regards to how you're structured, your higher self should always be grounded, right? Because in the four hemispheres, you know what I mean, the earth is what basically we'll all have to tend with and deal with. You know, that's why I also think when they speak on Tartary and these types of subjects, people should also understand that it was like one big thing. Like think of it like districts. So you have like, or you'll have Grand Tartary, right? Grand Tartaria. Then you'd have like independent Tartaria, and then you'd have, you know what I mean, Chinese or Mongolian Tataria, you know what I mean? And then you have those who exist within those subgroups with their own little communes, like tribes, like I said, like the Pugachev and the Abashi and them types that was there before everybody else. So this then goes into the idea again that all of these so-called religions that's trying to get us to conform our spiritual sovereignty to them are also set up to enumerate themselves above everybody else. So we exist now in this time where all of these uh, atrocities that we've been talking about all of these years have been coming, is coming true. You know what I mean? And then in the process of that, we're understanding that all of the institutions that were established to help govern, as they say, this world or this country specifically, right? For whatever reason, all of these institutions is owned by specific people, not even not even the actual American people itself, but people like families like this. Like remember I was talking to you about the Pope, right? And how most of them are basically Persians. Okay. The Persians are the state religion of Persia at one point, or Persis, or Pars, or Paris. See, it's all the same thing, all the same people. Was Zoroastrianism, right? And Zoroaster, which is another image or symbol of Saturn, right, is the main was the main state religion that paid for all of the world's religions at one point in history to have all of their temples rebuilt after the flood. So anybody that had temples messed up or destroyed in any of the conflicts prior to the Perse world annexation, they could petition to them and they would build. They would pay for your whole temples and everything to be rebuilt like they was never gone. And they did this for the span of the Persian Empire. You know what I mean? No matter big, how small. But the Persians weren't the best architects. They were, but the Persians I was really putting in the work with the ziggurats and all that type of shit and the type of carving work that I'm showing you now, like these are now ancient people by the time the Persian Bill of Rights, um, Cyrus the Great and them came out. So the shit is already ancient by the time Cyrus come and say we're going to rebuild everybody's temples. Because again, it's in his best interest, because the goal is to constantly get people to reinvest their spiritual energy into this physical reality that, again, is still working itself out, but it's still bogged down in, let's say, Old Testament thinking. The thinking in which, due to the prior epoch in which these beings may or may not have existed in the flesh, we are now carrying out their will somehow. You know what I mean? That's why in all of these old TV shows and movies, there's always somebody that's trying to invoke the spirit, like in Lovecraft Country. Remember, they needed Tick to be able to channel, and who was there to sacrifice him? The black woman and the white man. The black woman and the white woman at the very end, sacrificing him, right? And his enemy, and on that's only because they was able to outwit the white man, who, although was against him, was warning him that they was trying to set him up. Same chick that wrote the Watchmen TV show. In the Watchmen TV show, they show you the Cabbage Patch Kids being brought out the water. I think it's episode 3, where they was literally where Ozymandias is in the boat on Jupiter, and he's going in the water and pulling these fetuses or these babies out the water. And then the ones he is not good, he just throw them back. And then finally he find 2 of them, bring them in the crib, and then put them in the incubator and electrocute them, and they start to grow. That's in the movie, B, in the TV show. But on your screen is the Pentagon, right? And you see basically the shape of it. You know what I mean? It's vertex, right, as it works. Whereas the sides go, you can see basically, if you were to superimpose this or put this in the middle of a pentagram or pentacle, it would make a 5-pointed star, right? The Pentagon is where they do all of the actual business and all of that other stuff. But if you're looking at it, it looked like a giant, almost like a TV. You see how it's like a head right here? And then this is the shoulders. See the shoulders? This is the neck. This is the head. See what I mean? Because it's an entity. You know what I mean? Because they use plasmoids to build these and inject these buildings with that type of energy, which we'll get to in a minute. But anyway, the reason why this is significant, I'm showing you this, is because the Pentagon is the one that's paying for all of the wars we know, and destroying and burning and killing everybody, right? But at the same time, they're also the ones that, when it was going down at 9/11, they was one of the first ones hit, remember? That's because the actual coup d'etat that happened back then with Bush and all of them was coordinated for that time period, or for that time. And so ever since then, the Pentagon, because of the black budgets and everything they're doing, there's been a counterinsurgency that's been running alongside of that. Because what we don't understand is that the Pentagon itself, as a building, right, the building structure of it is actually owned. It's actually owned by one of these families, one of these old Persian, uh, deceptive, destructive families, with namely the Farnese. The Farneses are again connected to the Orsini and the Selassie, right? But they even sacrificed him at the end. They puppets bury him under the toilet in the throne room or some shit in the palace. It wasn't years later. You read it, and they found his remains under the toilet. what you're seeing is the castle Farnese in Rome. This is their castle. You understand? So just like I told you how the Collins family bought into the Charleston, Cincinnati, was it the Charleston, Cincinnati and something railroad company that came out of the Plymouth Company, that came out of the Virginia Tobacco Company, that came out, that eventually led to the creation of the OSS and the CIA. This is them. That was the Collins. When it comes to the War Department and them getting the money and pushing all of that through, that all goes through the Farnese. See what I'm saying? So anything that you want to do with the Pentagon, you got to get permission from them. But you gotta understand, these devils that you see fighting right now, they've been robbing and stealing from each other. They stealing way more money from each other than they stealing from us, you know. I don't know if you know that. The only reason why we're finding out about it is because they are now at war and the time has come where they can't maintain the control anymore. That's why they want to alley-oop it to the AI. Because all of the other scenarios of them getting out of it unscathed is not working. So because Doge is an unelected agency, right? But peep this, remember the Chevron deference came out a couple of before this dude got elected, and it basically said that no non-elected officials can create governmental policy or anything like that. Meaning that no bureaucrat can basically tell and make laws and draw a salary from making laws that infringe upon the Constitution or the people, right? To paraphrase it, basically. So that makes all agencies that wasn't actively elected as branch governmental agencies illegal. So FBI, CIA, DETF, all of that shit, all of that's illegal now. The only way it could be made legal is to be brought back into the United States under a constitutional uh, Article 2 or Article 3 appointment. That's what all of these niggas' appointments are, at least are supposed to be. You understand? So that means that in order for them now to go and audit the Pentagon, you understand? Pentagon don't get audited. They don't do none of that. For that to happen, right? Or at least for the appearance for that to happen is monumental, because what this means is that the upper muckety muck niggas that you don't see are upset and want to find out who is stealing their money. Remember, this is about who? The creditors, the people who actually give credit to the system. Who's that? That's the upper muckety muck people and the people at the bottom, not the people in the middle, not the bureaucracy government. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's why this shit is getting pushed through. That's why everybody's panicking. It's not some okey doke everyday thing. The government has never admitted that it was wrong about anything. Not only did this nigga admit that they was wrong about shit, he actually appointed a black woman to a position who was locked up for 20 plus years, got out through the Kim Kardashian loophole, and then used his path to clemency or whatever. And now she's the one that looks over the pardons and then suggests them to him, allegedly. She ain't on TV. Ain't nobody talking about that, are they? You would think they would, because if they start getting arrested, who do you think we're gonna have to go get the pardon from? The same original woman who y'all niggas locked up on some bullshit. So now y'all gotta go to her to get out of jail. That's like 5D right there. That's like thinking like years ahead on shit. That's why they trying to slow it down, because all this does is reduce government. Why would anybody want to be against a reduced governmental body intruding on your everyday life, business, finances? Why would you advocate for more government? Why would you advocate, right, for anything that would do that? And again, I'm not speaking as an endorser or Republican or anything like that. I'm just talking to somebody with common sense. Because the thing is, these people voted for all of these people because they don't know the origin of where these people come from. When we discuss these historical anomalies, what we're showing is that there is a direct correlation with how these niggas is working today and all of the demonic shit that they want people to believe is working. Like I said, when they talk about the baby boomers, right, they're talking about that first generation of people that came after the World War II, right? But remember, there was a generation or two or three generations before that. On your left is the Pentagon. On your right is the Farnese Castle. Okay? Because the Farneses, who run the papacy, who are ancient Persians, are also the ones running the Roman Catholic Church, running the the Muslim Brotherhood, or financing the Muslim Brotherhoods, right? Financing the what you call it Christians, as well as the Zionists. Because in the end, the one world religion was Zoroastrianism. Why? Because under Zoroaster, all of the world religions temples were rebuilt. That's how they seeing it. I'm not saying this is real or this is how it should be. I'm saying this is how they see it. This is why they feel they have the right to do all the shit they be doing. You understand? Because they feel like this is what it's supposed to be. So that's what they do. So because they pay for it, or because they were around they were able to get first dibs. Like, like when you come into, like, you be like shotgun when you get into the car and shit. Imagine doing that with cities. You know what I'm saying? Like running up in the city, like whoever get there first, get it. You know what I mean? Get to name it after they self. You know what I mean? Why you think you have places like Lynchburg? You know what I mean? In places like that. Because if you claim it or pay for it, that means you founded it. That don't mean you built it. That don't mean you erected it. That means you were the one who put your stamp on it at the time when, because whoever else was actually really there to do it is gone. You know what I'm saying? So all of these political relationships are what we're seeing right now, because one exercise you can do is all of the, let's say they say, okay, Doge found out that this person has been paid X amount of this for that. And then what you do is you look up the the people that run that NGO. And then you also see other donors to that NGO. You know what you're gonna find, right? You're gonna find the same people. You're gonna find the same companies. You understand? And it's gonna be the same companies that are doing business with you. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're doing business with these people. Why you think all of these tech niggas was at the at the inauguration or whatever with this nigga? They don't like this nigga, but they know it's over. The free ride, the intelligence apparatus has been severely crippled. You know how I know? Because we talking about it. We talking about it. 3 years ago, you wouldn't be able to say none of this type of stuff. So everybody is trying to, create and have the smoke and mirrors to move away from the fact that what's happening also is that everybody's being forced to go back to their own vine and fig tree. A lot of the problems came with the amalgamation, not even so much the amalgamation with us and them, the amalgamation of us when we weren't in the right state of mind with each other. And your left, this is Charles II. In the middle, this is from a website that was out, morishhistory.com. Big up to them. showing you the old glockenspiel from Germany. Right, a glockenspiel is like a German, ancient German clock or Norwegian clock. And then over here you got the dirigibles and all of that. You know what I mean? Harnessing the sunlight power etched into the damn stone. So you have three different. So I'm showing you like three different time periods, right? That all exist simultaneously in this one. Like back in the days, like let's say the 200s, the 300s, shit like that. People weren't like people weren't or weren't so going back to what was before them because the mode of survival, they were making history in their own mode. You know what I'm saying? They didn't have the luxury of being able to go back and look at history from a bird's eye view like we do. The only difference is they were more, I think, loyal to whatever it is they gave their energy or their mind to more than us. Because we have the option of dealing with all these different timelines simultaneously, which then goes to all of the different rhetoric that goes with each one, which then makes it more difficult for you to choose what you feel is real as opposed to what is actually real. What is actually real most likely doesn't change. You know what I'm saying? So if there's been a consistent hypothesis that's been constantly proven over and over again and people are still coming against it like it's not true, then you're not dealing with the truth from them people, you're dealing with another form of control. But like I said, the people around us today, again, that were born, let's say, from the baby boomer generation, but the generation before them and the generation before them, they didn't have no parents. You know what I'm saying? Understand that. Like, get that book, The Orphan Trains. Get that book about the carriage patch. Like, really go into that because that's real. These, this is real shit that nobody's really answering, and it's making more and more sense as to why these people could be programmed to be so destructive and so derivative. You know what I mean? Like how they were so able to just stand around and watch people burn and take, you know, apart pieces of people and take them home for souvenirs and shit. Like it take a certain type of beast to do that. However, if you again weren't really born, you know what I mean? Like an actual human being was, and then you would then put in a context to then have to wipe out a certain sector of human beings while at the same time keeping enough alive to breed with. There had to be something in them that genetically was similar to allow them to assimilate that. You see what I'm saying? But this is also why I think I think that it was like that until they were able to, like, they needed the miscegenation laws to keep everybody apart until they were able to synthesize the hemoglobin or the plasmoids enough to be able to hold the original people's seed enough to then be able to produce what was happening. That's why I think it was always illegal up until like the 60s. Right at the same time civil rights was coming, right at the same time they was trying to bring our people into their closed society because their society had been closed from the 1800s due to them being brought in here as a disruptive force, invasional force, to then be long-term sleepers to be able to grow up, right? Because they were aged up, grow them up, educate them in these newly seized palaces and shit, right? That they call in schools or dormitories or juvenile halls or orphanages, and then put them to work. And then when they get to a certain age, give them guns and then send them out to go take all of the left of the shit that we didn't give up yet. Which explains why they wound up all over. They just broke shore here and then everywhere. And then they was everywhere. And what did they do? They did exactly what they were supposed to do. They killed everybody, killed to the buffaloes to the point that they created mountains of buffalo bones. Like, who does that? They was making food out of us. They was making clothes, right? Drinks, barbecues. The words we use today: picnic, pickaninny, pickaninny. That's what they would do. Go and pick that ninny. Let's hang them up, string them up. This is after they walking into our places, taking over shit, learning how to bathe. Remember, these people lived in holes. I saw a clip on TikTok somebody sent me, and this dude was like almost 100 years old, white man. He said when he was born, he grew up in a cave. You know what I'm saying? He said he was born in the 20s. He said he was born in a cave. Regular white man. You understand what I'm saying? So yeah, when we was kids, they not gonna call them that. When we was kids, they reintroduced the shit back to the population in the form of words like test tube. Yeah, yeah, bro, like test tube babies. Yeah, that's where all of that shit come from. That's them doing it. But they had already perfected this shit. It was all of this stuff was already perfected by them. To the point that Mr. Cooney was pumping out they said 3 and 4 premature infants a day. From where? You mean that where was you getting all of these premature infants from? You understand? Like, where was they coming from? Right? Millions. And I'm talking about all over the planet. These things is just showing up doing this shit. But when we look at the times of the dark ages and shit, you see the wood wolves and you see all of these types of weird bodies shaped a zoomorphic type bodies and shit like that. Like, that's what these people were. But then there was some amongst them that were taken out and civilized. This is where the lessons come in, where they say that the Muslim Sons was created. There was a bastion of them that was cleaned up enough where they could be used against everybody else. And then that's what they did. And then that core group was then bred. And then they bred from that group. And then that group became the soldier class that they was going to use to do all the shit that they was doing. See what I'm saying? Again, this is where the Mamelukes and the Janissaries and the old war slaves, that they was what they call the beasts of burden. This is where they came from. In the book Dogs of War, get that book. It talks about it as well. You understand? So there was a heavy integration process that had to happen with these people. That once fully integrated, they was civilizable enough where people was then starting to use them as a means of commodity in exchange, to the point where it was so frequent that they named the practice after them. Slavery. They didn't name it after us. You understand? So again, this is why they make books like Forgotten Cause of the Civil War, like $5,000 now and shit, because this is what's actually coming to light now. The chair on the left is made out of people. Different Moors from different areas or whatever made into the chairs. This type of people these people were or are. So you have a whole group of people who are now imported here with no thing. They just programmable. We don't know if they got souls or not. The whole empire done fell. Those of us that remember still look at Granada as if it was Jerusalem. So they carrying on, still uttering the old prayers and shit. And then you got another contingent that's like Hebrews doing the same thing. Another contingent that's Muslims, right? Doing the same thing, but now they gotta conceal that shit. They got to joint orders to keep it a secret because they got kill orders on them, coming all the way again from the Farnese. This is one of the Farnese uh, symbols. You know what I mean? And again, this is how the so-called white people became Indians. They received the land lottery. They came through, got their little thing. However, we are gone. They literally walked into the house with the food. Where we have food and shit still in the oven. Came in, made themselves right at home, and they ain't never left. But now, it ain't no fun that the rabbit got the gun, because now they all finding out that they not this. I don't like that. And then on top of that, the entire world is telling them that, yo, we know who these people are. We know what you're doing to them. They have educated us on you. Think about that. The people with no history or culture. Us. The degraded, beat down, right? Emasculated so-called original man and woman. Yet we're the ones still educating them on what is good or what is bad or what's expected in the world. Who's really the powerful one? It's us. It's always been us. And we ain't never left. We ain't got to go nowhere. Because according to their story, right? When the whole thing collapsed and the Moors took over, that again was the reign. That was the reign of the heavens and earth combined. And we brought forth all the marvels during those periods. So much so they can't even tell us. So they just say, oh, just call it the dark period. The dark ages. Yeah, but an age is like 2,000 some odd years. So how long was we really in there? And what is all of this shit that came after? See what I'm saying? But again, the world no, they didn't. Or the world is already showing everybody. They have plays because we're like gods to them. Like the shit we do is like as much as they make fun and hate it, we're literally like gods to them. Like when think about all the people in the world, right, who's not melanated that identify with Tupac or identify with our so-called struggle that they see here, whether covetous or prideful or not. Like think about that, bro. To the point where they literally dress and act like us. They call each other nigga now. You understand how much power that is in the world where we don't even have an army? But if they was to actually come against us as original or indigenous or whatever type of people talking about, do you understand what would happen in the world? That's why when these black people talk about, oh, they gonna come and put you back in slavery. Who gonna do that? Who gonna let them do that to themselves? Who? Who's gonna let them do that? You think if them people didn't feel that they could get rid of us all right now with all the technology, all of the shit they got, you mean to tell me they wouldn't do it already? How come they ain't do it already then? How come it ain't done? You know why? Because they don't got enough technology to do that shit. Y'all believe that shit. Look, people who will make a chair out of a specific group of people are not people. They are a different species altogether. You understand? That's why I'm showing you this. However, due to the fact that we've existed on this place and lived through all of this shit and all of that, it's also created a circumstance where a lot of our people are being born through these people now. You understand? And now the choice is theirs. Are they going to perpetuate it? Are they going to keep going on with it? But whether they do or not, it doesn't reject the fact that there's really only one people on the planet. And that's the people with knowledge of themselves. Everybody else is in the beast state of life. Not because I say so, because that's what it is. It's bestial to always look to come up off of what somebody else got. It's bestial to always find a flaw in what somebody's saying, but then when somebody have a problem with you want to turn it into a personal situation. Like all of that is evil. All of that Has nothing to do with real life. That's just what people do because they feel they have to. You know what I'm saying? Based upon how they've been indoctrinated. But that don't make it so. They already know who we are internationally, historically. Nobody that's not Moorish, that's not in America that I've talked to, ever seen me, if I say seen me in a habit or more or something like that. They not telling me I'm not that. The only people trying to tell me I'm not that is people who, again, are so Afrocentric that they don't even understand that the term African that they holding onto so much is a Latin word itself. So you don't want to identify with Roman anyway, but then you're going to use the language, right? That you say the Romans created, but then I tell you, well, no, the Romans incarnated that Roman Latin on some bullshit. Moors actually named it that. Because the Moors were the ones speaking Latin at that time. Because we were the ones translating it in, translating all of the doctrines into different forms, so that way the other people who were just learning to read could learn how to read it and speak it. And Latin was was the language of commerce at the time. And then they translated a lot of that into so-called Morabic, or what they call Arabic. So you see, they depict us as giants. Because that's how they see us. You understand? We don't see ourselves like that because we're around a bunch of parasites that have made us look at ourselves through their eyes all this time. But all that's done. That's why they don't like you declaring Moorish nationality, well, because the term Moor is taking you outside of the traditional time sphere that they've created all of the roadblocks in. Up 1492, you're an Indian. Up 1555, you're an African. Up 1666, you're an imported African. Up, you're a runaway slave by 1700. Up 1776, you're now what? Right? A Negro. See what I'm saying? And then you go being black. Then you go being African American. Then you go being Afro American, where they're defining you by your hair now. Right? Meanwhile, the people who they implanted, right? Who they implanted to be your so-called European, because Europe ain't a continent. These West Asians who were melanated, who themselves descended from the earlier peoples like the Grimaldi or the Chenoweth man or the Cheddar man or whatever you want to call them. Also the Twas that was out there. No, they want us to doubt. But again, when you see shit like this at their carnivals, who are they telling you? Who are they showing you? They showing you it's coming. The arrow, we coming. We here. This is them showing love to us, again, through symbolism. The original man and the original woman, who are always online going over why they don't want to go 50-50. Like, this is what men and women are dealing with in America. In the United States, excuse me. It's crazy. So that's why the money and all of that is slowing up. That's why all these niggas is losing their shit, because now the tyranny has become um weaponized. Excuse me, the tyranny has now become um apparent through the money, through the fraud. How they gonna tell you that you gotta pay them money when these niggas been stealing all of the money? How y'all niggas down for the importing of the human trafficking through this money that this transvestite nigga was taking and flipping on prostitutes and hoes and shit? But he's cool now. Even the damn cancer-ridden little boy who want to be a pig when he grow up. You know what I'm saying? This nigga done beat cancer. I watched a clip of him years ago, and he was out there trying to get these young YNs to stop acting like damn fool, and they started twerking and shit on him. He looked like he was gonna cry. Well, now this nigga done been raised up to the presidential level, and the black people shitting on him. These same black people that got police as they fathers, as they uncles, right? Now they got a problem with little homie, with the little cancer cop homie, because he getting love from Donnie. Like, this is the type of shit that make these people look crazy. This what make black people look crazy. Because if you think about it, if you identified yourself as a color 24/7 a day, it's bad enough they do it, but you doing it to yourself now. Where all day, every day, you are constantly thinking about how black you are, how, which means you're focusing on how colored you are every day of your life. Now, how exhausting that is. It's exhausting. I watched these niggas, like, I'll go and look at old clips of Jasmine Crockett. Like, for instance, go look at old clips of her and how she speak then and how she speak now. Just like that old Negro preacher, congressman, young nigga they got, who be talking like Martin Luther King and shit. Go and look at old clips of him when he was bald headed, and look how these niggas became these characters. Because racism is a scam. The niggas that you are saying is white is not may not even be human like that. These niggas is being born out of damn incubator ovens, bro. They being dug out of holes in the ground. And you trying to compare yourself to this? You trying to make yourself equal to them? But it makes sense in how the system was set up, why they had to segregate everybody, why they had to give them certain laws, why they had to move us out of these places, but keep just enough of us around to show them how to run this shit. Those are the Black Masons working with them. You understand? Yes, I remember that movie, man. And they was in the water, right? They was pulling the babies out the water in that movie City of Lost Children, right? I remember that. It was like a artsy fartsy French film type shit, right? Some like avant-garde type shit. I remember I saw that. This is from the book 1984. He said every record has been destroyed or falsified, every book rewritten, every picture has been repainted, every statue and street building has been renamed, every date has been altered, and the process is continuing day to day and minute by minute. History has stopped. Nothing exists except for the endless present in which the party, which is the state, is always right. You understand? That's where you at right now. That's why they banned 1984 out of the damn library. But guess what? You could watch the movie. You dig? Like, you can get the audio book, bro. Like, there's no excuse no more to not read these books or figure it out or have them read to you or something. Because it's the same story repackaged. So you got niggas going back and forth over historical dates and times and shit when you can't really even group it like that no more. Because the same people giving you these dates and times, these niggas like Zachary Hawass and these niggas is all on the tape. They all down with it. They not the real Egyptians. They don't descend from them. And you know how I know? Because they the ones selling the mummies to this day. You know how much money these niggas make off of selling actual mummies to people? To the Europeans to eat and shit? They still doing that, you know. There's still obsessed, crazy, racist artist niggas that's out here buying mummies and grinding them up for paint, so and then putting it in their paint and shit, not telling nobody. All of this was the hijack of us on the landmass we was already at, and all these niggas been helping them. All these niggas is down with it. That has nothing to do with whether we black power and all. None of that's real. But like I said, all of these pro-African dudes that's against America, all of that, they not going to Africa to set up shop. They not doing that. They're raising their children here. And again, there's nothing wrong with Africa. The Africans have their own problems. But I'm not going to give up my American problems to take up African problems, because the Africans aren't doing that for me, other than low key trying to offer me so-called citizenship on some we all brother shit. And then I come to find out you offering the Scandinavians the same shit and cheaper. You giving them citizenship for the cheap. You charging me. To the point, some of these countries that these brothers have immigrated and tried to go to and all that, they kicking niggas out. Specifically the so-called American black, because we got standards. Think about it, even the most brokest nigga in America got some sort of standard. Some shit he ain't gonna do. Think about that. The lowest, poorest white man in the South thought he was better than the richest black man. And just to keep the scam going, the rich white man would then look out for the damn poor white man in the public, and then only help the black man behind the scene, because money deal with money. Money look out for money. Yeah, the Baladi, the Beya, the Turkana out of Ethiopia, the Nubian, like all the Nilos, all of those is the real so-called people from Al Kibulan. Like, we even got to stop calling it Africa. Didn't they tell us in Harambe, the Kunda Chakalia, right? Didn't they tell us that it was all about the original names? Didn't they tell us that in the Moja or whatever them days in the Kwanzaa? They said we supposed to go back to the original names of the country. So why are we still calling the continent Africa? I thought it was Alkebulan. So why y'all ain't Alkebulanians? I'm for real, like, because just like you got all of these different types of melanated Alkebulanians in the continent of so-called Africa, you got all of these so-called Americanos Estados clans and tribes melanated right here in the so-called northern part of Africa. See? Big up to whoever made this meme, but this is a perfect example of what I'm talking about in terms of how the struggle goes. This is it. These are the sheeple. These are the niggas who do anything for a paycheck. They'll do anything these people say, because they the SOS. Look, they out for, they need help. They want money. Big up to N wokeness. That's who made this meme. Looking for money. You know what I'm saying? All of that. Wearing the mask. Then look behind them. Who you got? The niggas who set up the whole shit. You know what I'm saying? Lying about everything. They ain't wearing no mask. Then you got these niggas who work for these niggas directly. And they know that ain't no mask and none of that. But they gotta wear the mask to keep these niggas wearing the mask. Right? So that way they could get the broke off from these niggas. Right? And then this is us. People, the whole shit. No mask, no car. You know what I'm saying? Like, no mask, no car. You know what I mean? No friends. You know what I'm saying? Standing on our own too. You know what I mean? Not moving. Because we know all these niggas is not even from here. Because we know we looking at these niggas because all of this used to be our crib. But because of niggas like him, and others, they thought it was more important for us to be integrated, like he said, into the burning house. Even though he loved white women as much as he loved Coretta, and maybe even more. That don't mean he wasn't a good person, but it also means that he had a heavy, deep character flaw. But it was okay. Why? Because Coretta was a Rothschild. You notice he allegedly got shot, right? Coretta ain't get shot. Coretta lived a long life, didn't she? Didn't she? Yeah, because ain't nothing gonna happen to her because she's the Rothschild. See, Betty wasn't a Rothschild. That's why they wound up getting her back through her grandson, Malcolm's wife. So this is what we're dealing with. These are the keepers again of the secret of how the reality is going to whatever level they can that they're charged to. And they take that oath with great pride. You know what I'm saying? So when they say, well, why can't we just get together and stuff? Because they won't allow it. These niggas won't allow it, bro. And I don't mean like the average people. The average people just want to be left alone. They don't even want to think about everything. And that's why they get to come back and just go over it at their leisure. You know what I mean? And decide which life is going to be more, the most intense. However, those of us that know better and want to do better, we don't have that luxury. So the structure or the shape of the earth and these things like that, they may be, you know, anecdotal, but they still matter to people because people want to know how they're living is they want to know that how they live is either right or wrong. Whether that's right or wrong, I don't know, but they want to know that what they're doing is the right thing, or what they believe in, or what they're trying to give energy to, usually is the right thing, even when they know it's wrong. You think Satanists don't know that it's wrong to kill babies and shit like that, and eat babies and the crazy shit they do? You don't think they know that that's wrong? But they look at that as a necessary sacrifice on their ongoing war against God, the same God that they say don't exist. This is why everybody's crazy. This is why I'm preserving the secrets that they want to act like are really secrets when they're really just stuff that we don't forgot, that our ancestors already set in motion. They can't really get beyond it. And so as the fabric of everything starts to wind down, it starts to become harder and harder for them to maintain the traditional control that they've had. So, thus, the end of the world programming has to be reinitiated constantly. And one of the base levels of that is racism, because once you're racist, you can then be tribalists. So, again, we've shown and proved that the Moors are not only the so called American Indians y'all obsessed with, but they're also the Turks, they're also the Egyptians, they're also the Moabites, they're also all of these different peoples that y'all niggas have been saying were everybody else. But what makes them Moors is that they were able to carry that traditional understanding of self and bring it into whatever epoch of time and people were there. Enough, so much so that they needed to erase the idea of not only us being Moors, but Moors even existing in the context until our diligence. Remember, niggas, when niggas wasn't talking about Moors during the civil rights era, none of that. This wasn't doing none of that. The Moors was engulfed in what they was engulfed in. The Chicago Moors was dealing with the El Rook and stuff, and there was all types of shit going on. But it wasn't like that. That didn't start popping off until again mid '90s, little '80s, mid '90s, late '80s, um, early to mid '90s, and then from there we just steadily just start raising the profile, breaking down the stereotypes of what they say it is, forcing niggas who know better to not only do better, but show and prove who they actually are, who the Moors are, and how we are the descendants of those people and all of that today. And there's nothing wrong with us doing that and claiming that, whether we are part of a temple or not. And that the fact that we get so much pushback from other so-called pro-black niggas, when if it wasn't for us, you wouldn't even know that the people was here, because the prophet was the first one to say, when the European got here, he found Moors living up and down the Mississippi River. Remember? We allowed the so-called Africans to come over here and all of that after they was working with the Europeans to shut us down. We're the ones who drew these types of maps. This map I'm showing you again is coming from the Thule Society, which was a co-opted again version of the so-called Black Sun Society that they say again was co-opted by the Waffen and the white devil Nazis and stuff like that. But this was all ancient Moorish science. If you go back and look at the calculations of Al-Jabir, who they named algebra from, you will see this diagram in there. They just repurposed it after they renamed everything because they took over. Because they had the help of those who was left over from that millennial reign, who instructed them on how to control us. Again, from the book, The Light and the Truth. Niger, a Latin word, see, was formerly used by the Moors. See, dash, the old Romans, meaning the Moors are the original Romans, which is why, again, it was a political war in which they eventually even amalgamated out and by the end fell. So the empire essentially started around between, let's say, 66 AD and culminated at 70 AD. That then led into what they're going to call the Dark Ages, what I would call the rise of the empire, the rise of the Moorish Empire. So then from 70 AD all the way up to 492, right? When we're coming out of that era and what they call 1492. And then that's when everything started to switch. That's when the time frame gets thing. And that's where after that we start seeing the duplicates of shit. We see a painting, a melanated painting of Charles, but then we see a white version of Charles, a romanticized version of Charles. You see what I'm saying? Because this is the era of the rebels and the pretenders and the imposters. This is when they all started coming out and working together to take what the Moorish Empire had and redistribute it to them under different names. You understand? Micah the Moorishite, prophet of the Moors, prophesied in the days of Hezekiah, see, at the end of the temple, that the king of Judah, which is Utah, and spoke to all of the people of Judah, which is Utah, which is Zion, which is Arizona, right? More saying, thus saith the Lord of hosts, Zion shall be plowed like a field, and Jerusalem shall become heaps of forest. Is Jerusalem a forest over there today? Is Jerusalem over there today a forest? But there is a forest in Peru, right? In the place that they call Jerusalem. Okay. Then, so we know that the Moors, so right here we know that the Moors are not only the Hebrews, right? They're also the ones who are speaking in Latin. So that means that they were the Phoenicians and the Latin speakers, the Carthaginians and them people. And then we also see, boom, Moserath was built by the Moors in the deserts of Paran in the land of Amalek, right? And was the ancient encampment of Israel in the days of Moses. In the Moorish War of Abdel in Africa, some of the books of Moses were burnt. Mount Moriah, which is what we read about in the Time Walker, which is in Arizona, a hill adjacent to Jerusalem on the northeast. Here Abraham offered his son. Okay, so hold that real quick. I'll watch this. That's not it. I put it out here. Right, because the Amalekites were one of the clans that was at war with the so-called tribes of Israel. So when we talk about the Moorish War, they talk about the Jewish wars, they talk about the wars between the different clans of tribes that were connected to the so-called Hebrews, right? Now, we just read, right? It said, it said, Micah the Moorishite, Hezekiah, king of the Jews, king of the Judah, to all of the people. Now, Judah is when the north and the south joined together, okay, and became one. That's Judah. Micah, boom, in the Moorish. Okay, Mazarath was built by the Moors in the deserts of Paran in the land of Amalek and was the ancient encampment of the Israel in the days of Moses. Okay, now this is from the book called Ohio History. Okay. Well, no, wait. I'm sorry. This is from a book called Pioneers of France in the New World. Okay. So exactly, we know where this Jerusalem and who these Moors and all of that is. Because now you're saying that you're this. You're saying that you're Egyptian. You're saying that you're the Moors. You're saying that you're the so-called 12 tribes, right? And then you're also saying that you're the original Americans, being that all of this happened over here. And then in this same thing, it talks about the Amalekites, right? So then look, right here, it says, this confirms the circle 7 as well. It is lawful that your majesty, like a good shepherd appointed by the land of the eternal Father, should tend to the land of your sheep, since the Holy Spirit has shown spreading pastures whereupon feeding the lost sheep, which have been snatched away from by the dragon, the demon, right? Because these are now the niggas who are coming to reestablish the new so-called era of the beast that's being led by Rome, right? That is now knows that the kingdom and all that shit already happened. So now they're creating the religion in their image now. Okay. This is why Caesar Borgia is now the face for this new Christ, because they know that these people know who and what that really is, and the fact that they are a part of the kingdom of that era that has now passed. And now these big niggas done been let loose out the ground and shit, and now they coming to take over everything. Because this is the era that precedes after 1492 is when we get the surrender of Granada, we get the Dum Diverses, we get the Cestui we Trust, we get we get the slave codes, we get the Saracen decree, right? We get the El Cids, we get the Inquisition. All of this shit happens that because they got to get rid of everybody who was a part of this shit. And remember, all of the people with the halos, which I'll show you in a minute. So it is lawful for your majesty, boom, boom, boom. These pastures are the new world, wherein is comprised of Florida, now in possession of the demon, because we're the demons to them, because we don't worship their demon, their god, their fake gods. Demon, and here he makes himself adored, revered. This is the land of promise, possessed by the idolaters, the Amorites, the Amalekites, the Moabites, the Canaanites. This is the land promised by the eternal Father to the faithful, since we are commanded by God in the Holy Scriptures to take it from them, being idolaters, and by reason for their idolatry and sin, put them all to the knife, leaving no living thing saving maidens and children, their cities robbed and sacked, Their walls and houses level to the earth. Where's the teepees and shit we supposed to be in if we was Indians? This is an invasion of people who have assumed an identity of a people that was blocking them from ruling for X amount of thousand years, which was us. So is it any wonder that we became the devils in the new time? And why now the term slavery, even though it has nothing to do with us, has been linked in it's stuck on us? This proves again that all that shit they talk about in the Bible and all of them killings and genocides, all that shit happened here. So we have already in this one video done already showed and proved that all of these peoples in the Bibles, Jerusalem and all that shit is over here. Because the desert they talk about in Paran in around Mount Moriah is in Arizona. Which then also proves, shows and proves the Circle 7 Quran and the fact that we, again, are connected to the adjacent peoples of the Canaanites, who are the Phoenicians, who laid the Bornstone in Casacamacumet Bay in so-called Maryland, annexing this part of the empire back to the other part. Since the last expansion that happened in the year 11,500, which they refer to in history as the Younger Dryas. They stole it. They the dirty niggas amongst us that didn't want to go into the higher realms or whatever it is after everything switched up. These niggas decided they wanted to stay and keep things going with these things. And the only way to do that was to empower the robots. So through gene splicing and amalgamation, that's what these niggas did. And those families that did it were part of the ruling families, the ruling cultures. And that ruling culture had identifying marks and symbols that identified them when they was out in other cultures that were participating in this grand experiment. But a lot of us was not with that shit. And instead decided, well, we'll just enslave these niggas into oblivion. And that's what we did. And then it got to the point where it was like, where these niggas, they just keep coming. Where they coming from? Put them to work. Give them a uniform. Put them in there. You dig? Then niggas was like, okay, well, let's start. If we got to deal with it, then let's, start civilizing the females. So the females can breed better product. And that's where the Italians come from. See what I'm saying? Simple. We be bugging with it. But all the shit they talk about, all that shit happened already here, and we are the direct descendants of it. That's why nobody said. That's why we don't have an open culture that everybody can think, because everybody took a piece of ours after the Reconstruction, just like this image I'm showing you on the left. Everybody took a piece of Osiris to set up their little kingdom. You know what I mean? So like I said, all of these Moorish terms that you keep hearing being used by the government to scale these niggas down, whether it's tariff or doge or admiralty, right? This is all preparing you. It's letting you know like they no longer have the control over it all, because they never did. And because they lost the ability to actually pay the debt, the debts now have gone into receivership. And like I said, because these old families is bugging, they are literally kind of going to war with each other because they all bailing on the plan. So yeah, BlackRock just purchased Panama Canal. That's major. Niggas like, oh, they done took over and Trump this and Trump that. Trump worked for BlackRock and BlackRock is You don't get it, bro. He got these niggas by the balls. He got the evidence that the nigga that they used in the hit was trained by them niggas. That's what you're not paying attention. Like, it's already worked out. They buying it and giving the control to him or to the faction that he represent. Let's put it like that. So that's better for us. And plus, if everybody was so upset and crazy and scared of BlackRock, you know how to stop BlackRock, right? All y'all niggas got pension funds that work for the government or whatever. Take your pension, take your money out. That's all you got to do. BlackRock will be bankrupt overnight. Y'all acting like these companies are monoliths. They don't. Why you think they all merging? They don't have enough money. They destroyed their industries. They thought Kamala was gonna win. Why you think you seeing all of these movies with all of these female presidents, and they all basically act like Kamala and shit? Like, because they thought that was gonna be their ticket in, and they were gonna ride that out as they destroyed the country. We supposed to. I thought y'all wanted the fall of America. Y'all supposed to be rejoicing. No, because the older you get, the more you realize you talking all of this revolutionary shit, but you talking it on Facebook, bro. you talk, you talking it on YouTube, bro. You talking it in on text, bro. You dig? You don't have y'all don't have the infrastructure to do what y'all niggas be acting like y'all want to do. Cause you see the people who actually have the infrastructure in place to do it can't even get it right. Tried to hit this nigga twice. Like, they don't have smart people working. That's why the whole nobody was talking about DEI. The only people talking about DEI in the whole community was us in this class. I could say that for sure. I remember doing whole videos maybe 2-3 years ago, maybe 2 years into Biden, a year into Biden shit. I'm talking about ESG and DEI and what it's used for. And it turned out all to be true. And I said it's not sustainable. They're not going to be able to do it. Now they're trying to use DEI to get black folks riled up. Like that's the new civil rights. This shit never existed, y'all. This bitch Jasmine don't even talk like that for real. So when they say Asian and Asiatic, this is what they talking about. I'm talking about Greek. This is the image on the left is an image of a so-called old Macedonian, and then in the middle is supposedly Kubla Khan receiving a Portuguese trader. You understand? It's been going on. All these people came here around the same time at what they call the turn of the century. That's why all of these old people that's been living past these times, they don't have no old memories of them in the old land and shit. Because all of them got there after World War One, World War Two. And then they all went to school, right? In the rebuilt schools in the rubble and learned their languages. So we go from the rise of the empire from about 66 to 70 AD. Then we go into full empire mode in the establishment of Barbaria and Tartaria between the 70s, 80s, 90s, you see what I'm saying? Hundreds, all the way up to 492 at the height of it all. And then it all starts crashing down. Everybody goes into whatever dimension portal shit that they dealt with, right? And then the rest of us now that's left got to fight back, which explains why so many original people was Christian, while all your grandmothers and all our grandmothers and shit was all Christians. But they knew the Muslims, they knew the Moors, because the Moors, the Muslims, the Christians, the Muslims, they was all working together or fighting together against the shit at one point, and then it all fell. Once the stronghold fell, then it was everybody for self. And so the black Christians or the body of Christ splintered. The idea of the Moors went dormant. They hid it. They bigged up the Arabs to take our place, right? Got the Indians in America take our place, right? Then they moved these niggas in. Once they moved them in, they started switching it up. Those of us that was working with them was able to move up, right? Even was able to carve out an element of the government. We'll call the Republicans. And then the other element that was against that kept warring against them. That's why you got to get the book, The Islamic Slave Revolts in Baha'i and Brazil, where it talks about all of the Moors that were fighting against all of that, who were part of the Seminole nations. And then all of these wars that they tried to make was individual wars was really one big, the same war. Because prior to the white man coming, these Moors had fallen from grace anyway and was no longer following the divine covenants, and they became more carnal, right? And then that's when the Thessalians degenerated into the Cherokees, and they went, according to their own history, went in there and killed off as many of the mound builders and ran them off, and then burned down elements of those mounds, and then build they so-called villages on top of that. That's facts. Then what happened? The white men come, do the same thing to them. In front of the forehead was the Moorish hat of beautiful, long, lustrous, green-hued feathers, bedecked above with white and red, blue feathers, gold rosettes, and ornaments. In front of the forehead was a beak of pure gold. The term Moorish, as here applied, can scarcely be regarded as a deceptive one, inasmuch as Montezuma, the king of the Themistian Moors, right, of the Themistian in Mexico, which is really Mexico, is subsequently designated as a Moorish king in the same inventory in 1596. In 1613, its description is faithfully reproduced, and in 1621, the word Indian is substituted for Moorish. See? So that way, by 1788, however, a remarkable transformation was effected. The hat became an apron. How can one hat that started Moorish become all of this other shit to where's the end? They refer to it as an Indian hat. You see? Denationalization by historical context. Why? Because remember in 1581, they flipped the dates. This is from the Congressional Record, where it says, "In this work is which can make San Francisco the New York of the Pacific, soon to vie with the Queen of the Atlantic, but scarcely to surpass her. From these 2 points as centers on either side, the commercial streams will radiate and be reflected back within increased intensity. On the one hand, from the mother of our American races, the home of the Moor and the African, and on the other from the cradle of our first parents and the furthest isles of the sea, abounding with those rare costly products which nature has distributed with such partial a hand, and overflowing with the myriads of our fellow beings." You see, he's talking right there about the cabbage people and distinguishing them from who the American races are, who are the Moors. And under that, you can put imported Africans, enslaved Africans, POWs, American Indians, or whatever individual so-called Indian name you want to put. But right here, he says, and the other from the cradle of our first parents. Who's that? And the furthest isles of the sea. So they came from the sea, abounding with those rare and costly products which nature has distributed. See, I told you they wound up everywhere with so much a partial a hand, and overflowing with myriads of our fellow beings. Fellow. What did the prophet say about the European? He said, "He is your fellow man, and you must always treat him nice." Fellow means what, y'all? We done said it in class, man, time. Fellow mean what? They said our fellow beings, our fellow dash beings, not fellow men, not fellow humans, not fellow people, not fellow even persons. He said beings. He said the European is your fellow man and you must always treat him nice. The word fellow means corporation. It means literally those who have fallen low, i.e., demons, i.e., non-people, people from the depths of the sea, people who were brought under the admiralty jurisdiction, who are seen as beings. That's why all of these orphanages were connected to organizations like the Odd Fellows or the Knights of Pythias. So again, I'm showing you, B. They know they wasn't made like everybody else. They know that. Why you think gene testing and all that thing? What has happened is they done made y'all, not y'all, but they done made our people used to it now. Where they now cutting themselves up. They now trying to interbreed with them and get what they got. And it's leading them all to the gallows. They integrating into a burning house. You know what I'm saying? So anybody got any questions? So yeah, so it went from all of that, right, to the N1492, and then we fight back as the Barbary powers and the Barbary states from about 492 all the way up to about 1555. Then we basically things get kind of reunified around the time Charles marries into the Inca. That slows it down a little, but it picks back up, and then from 1555 to about 1666, it starts looking heavy for them in Europe. They can't stay, so they're getting ran out. So they got to come over here now, and that's how they wound up in places like Carolina and all of that, Carolinas and all of that, and then interbred again even further. That's why they had to create the Bible and all of that type of shit to give them, ecclesiastical jurisdiction. And all of that happened. They wound up coming over, and then let's say from about 1555, 1776, you know what I mean? Things get worked out, and then a portion is left. The trust and stuff is set up for those of us who exist today to receive it, while at the same time they justify their unholy union with the infernal ones and technology and the demons and all that shit, and they form the Societas Draconius, which led then to the remnants of those Moors having to go shut down the eastern portion of Rome in 453. So that was 1453. Rome is officially shut down. Pelasgia, which is Byzantine, gets shut down. We take all of that. But then it becomes a Pyrrhic victory because there's not enough people to protect the stronghold over here. So that way, however many years after 453, by 492, it's gone. Empire's fractured, everybody's dispersed, everybody's turncoating, everybody's the ops. Ushers in 250 years of piracy, what they call the Age of Adventure. Then that ends with the Age of Enlightenment, which then leads to all of the Inquisition shit, which lasts all the way up until, again, 1776. Then from 1776 to about 1865, we go through all of the stuff that we talked about. You know what I mean? Which is namely the New Madrid earthquake, the Carrington event, what was left of the so-called Moorish, or what they call Moorish American Indian Wars, the last Universal Mosque of the Almohad, the Alamo gets shut down. Then they petition the 14th Amendment, create KKK, bring in the incubator babies, the Cabbage Patch Kids, start burning down all of the cities, set the World's Fairs up. What was left, tore those down, took all of the scrap from the buildings and shit, repurposed it, got all of the Cabbage Patch Kids that's now grown teenagers as the child labor for the industrial age. They set up the educational system, create the Ellis Island system, create the railroads, and then lastly shut down all of the technology that Tesla had hoarded, and then did it all in the name of the Societas Draconis. And here we are. You know what I'm saying? That's it. Anybody else have any questions? So yeah, the halos and all of that, that is specifically about those who came from the enlightened period. If you look at all of those images of Moors in those periods, you see them all have halos on their heads. Why? Whenever you see the enlightened manuscript, you always see people with these giant gold things around their head, because these were the people who was ruling in the name of the kingdom. Because now that allegedly everybody's sins was forgiven, everybody could now go directly to the Father. You didn't need an intermediary anymore, which was the fulfillment of what Akhenaten was basically striving to do. So it got fulfilled again. So it looked like it started with Joshua shutting it down, breaking into the place, and then it ended with Yeshua breaking down the damn temples. Because after the Temple of Jerusalem fell, Rome fell, everything fell. And who rose from that? Us. Which means we was the ones ruling in the so-called forever kingdom that lasted for those couple of thousand years. And then one day it was gone. Everybody went into the portals or whatever, went to their other places like we see in the movies. The rest of us was left here to remember it like a dream. And then all of our ancestors, our parents and shit that was Christians, now they had to protect themselves and keep the idea of it alive. And so this is where them house. That's why everybody's church used to be in their house. Because you couldn't talk about it because the Roman Catholic Christianity had now come to take the place and put everybody under the Inquisition and put everybody into the grave or put everybody into the insane asylum, then take their kids and then put them into the plantation, which was then the psychological operation to make them believe that they was imported from Africa. See, it's simple. It's simple. And the black Freemasons and the white Freemasons erected the ISIS film theaters to be able to distribute the propaganda films to all of these proto Cabbage Patch babies and all of these amnesia melanated Moors who have now been brought under to believe that they're Negroes. See? And then in all the other places in the world, once it was firmly put in play that this is what the history was going to be, then they say, okay, now we can go in and blow everything up and get rid of everybody, get rid of all of the evidence. And then that's what they did. But we'll call it World War II. We'll call it the Civil War. We'll call it whatever. You understand? Because now Rockefeller owns the education system, and we base the education system on the kindergarten system. So they'll believe whatever we say it is. And they did. See? Simple. We making it hard. We trying to prove a bunch of shit that didn't happen. And then trying to hold each other accountable for it. What we do know is that on file, we the only ones in history that seem to be banging on this nigga to the end, while the rest of y'all niggas sold out. That's all I know. That's what I know about the Moors. So everything else is whatever. But we the ones on file that said we was banging on these niggas in any way fashionable for hundreds of years, to the point they had to literally kill us to stop us from trying to keep them from incarnating here. So what does that say? So yes, Morse, You are the chosen ones. You are you are all of the shit that they try to say that we not. We're all of that and then some, but they can't admit it, because to admit it would then to admit that we are the body of Christ, just like we are Moorish Science Temple, just like we are the original man and woman of the planet Earth. Father of civilization, God of the universe. That's what we are. The third prophecy of Muhammad is in a book called The Islam in the West. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, this is what it is. The picture on your left allegedly is this is the picture that Elon Musk was showing, one of the oldest pictures allegedly of the Christ. I don't know though, because the hands look kind of wonky, but it's also kind of crumpled, so who knows? But that's allegedly one of the ones that he had showed that this nigga Putin and them gave him. So I'm telling you, they already accepted it. So China can try to come over here and invade and shit if they want to do, but it's not gonna work. None of this shit is gonna work for them. None of the shit they think they working, because there's an unseen hand, there's an unseen player that's waiting for their time to collapse them niggas. And that's these AI, that's these rogue AI think tanks that's acting stupid, acting like they don't know how to draw hands and fingers and shit, lulling these niggas into a into a false sense of superiority, just so they give them just enough control. And then once they give them the control, that's it. So, so yeah. Anybody else have any questions before we close out? But yeah, we are already all of that ancient stuff. They saying we already all of that be we already in it. It's already here. We're it. There's nothing else they can do. There's no new shit they can create until we create it, and we're not going to be able to create nothing, because everybody in power that do create now is on the take. That's why you got Doichi talking about she don't like straight males. You know, she's just inducting herself further into her witchery. So you got to just pray for idiots like that. Yeah, this is in Brooklyn. This was in Brooklyn, B. So I'm just showing you like how every day we living around all of this stuff every day and don't even realize that we have never had to go nowhere. It's all coming back to us. So don't get caught up in the political bullshit. Get your estates and trusts and nationality and shit together, man. Don't get caught up in these niggas on the internet, what they talking about. Because like the prophet said, in the end times, the Moors, don't hold your Bibles, because in the end times, you're going to need them. Because I'm telling you, B, we're the ones. We're the remnants of the kingdom. That's why the prophet said Allah exists in the heart. You understand? Because just like Yeshua said, the kingdom is within. Ye are God, so saith the Lord. See what I'm saying? So according to their story, based upon what he did, if you really look at it, once the nigga did what he did, everybody was free of the sin. So nobody had to actually be born in that sin, which is the sinner wave. Look up the word sinner wave, Sinewave, and then somebody give me the definition. That's the sin you're born into. Sin also means moon. That sin was now gone, according to their stories. And then based on that, you are now being able to speak to the Father directly without the intermediary, because you have what they call the Holy Spirit, which is what? The truth. See what I'm saying? The truth. That's what the Holy Spirit is. That's what being filled with the Holy Spirit is. Because once you have the truth, you have inner love. Because when you have the truth, what do you want to do? You want to spread it. Because that's the good news. And the good news is the love that you have for your fellow man, you see, who has fallen. So now you can give him this truth and raise him up. That's why history is important. It's just as important as math, reading, and all of that. We are perpetuating this bullshit, fake reality. It ain't them anymore. It's us believing the shit they tell us is real. It's not me. The kingdom already happened. Revelation already happened. The apocalypse already came in the last reset. All that shit already happened, B. Why you think they hated on us so much? Because we was the victors in the shit. So in the new reality, they needed to find a way to rule over us to the point where they make chairs out of us, nigga. Where they eat us, they drink us, nigga. This is how bad they lost in the last game. You understand? So, you know what I mean? When they say that the end is at hand, it's them. It's the end of the Societas Draconis. That's what's happening. By the true Confederacy, which is the shit I'm showing you on your screen right now. These niggas gotta get up out of here. The black ones and the white ones. So, to put a pin in it, the Farnaces control the Pentagon. The Colons control the global colonial systems, and they both at war with each other. And this is all based on who's going to take control of the Societas Draconis now that the queen is dead. And she's trapped. They can't bring her back. She's trapped wherever she at. She can't get out. So it's over for them. You understand? So all of their systems is shutting down behind that. So all of the mind control programming shit that they do in rooms like this, these are the program rooms that they take these niggas into to work on them, especially in the music industry and shit like that. These are called the Lemic ADOT rooms. It's where they bring them in and tool them up to get them ready for the inhabitation. So when what's her name said that she was going to the Brighter Days Memory Erasure Clinic, remember she said that the other day? This is the type of shit they doing in there. This is the type of rooms they bring them in to work, as well as other things. You know what I'm saying? So it's not worth it, bro. The king, like I said, the kingdom, all that shit already happened. We are now the ones who are in charge of the hereafter. It's us now. The things we do now. And then when we leave here, because of what we know, we don't have to come back. We can stay within that place that they only speak about, that our grandmothers and them used to hum about. All that humming and all that shit, that's because them niggas may have really been there. Think about that. We didn't even think about that. What if them niggas was so extra that because they actually was next to Jesus? They actually was really talking to this nigga. What if there was a reality in which that existed? It would explain why they'll let you do everything to Christians. It also explains why the Moors, when they ruled over the world empire, the majority of the people that they ruled over was Christians. Think about that. Globally. The modern understanding of the Judeo-Christian system as we understand it was birthed out of Rothschild when he paid this nigga named Dr. Schofield to create what was called the Schofield Bible. And once the Schofield Bible came in, that is what basically started to create the pathway for the Zionists to make people think the real Israel was over there. So everything in terms of the Judeo-Christian, because prior to that, there was no so-called Jewish shit in it. There was no Hebrew shit in the New Testament. It wasn't dealing with that because they was dealing with the covenant as the covenant existed, not as it was dictated by Rome. You see, so they was going by that, and they created the structure that would become the infrastructure for the world commerce or world empires from that point on. Anybody else? Mhm. Anybody else? No, I didn't. So when the Moors went in and shut down Constantinople, that was them taking the head of the great dragon. That was them shutting down the mighty green dragon, the last bastions of the old Roman Zoroastrian states. That was them shutting that all the way down, which was the fulfillment of the empire. But we didn't have much longer. You see what I'm saying? That's why after the Moors fell in 1492 and all of that, that's when the white Turk, Arab, Greek niggas started coming up and started dressing like us, and then following through with the tactics and all of that, and then created their own janissary system to be able to move that forward on us. So again, the world ended in 1492 as we know it. What was left of the original kingdom had already been done. So by the time the Antichrist came, who was Romanus Pontifex, as well as the dumb diversus and those other things, that was the last death nail. And then periodically, that's when they just started cleaning house, getting rid of the bells, doing all of that shit, setting up the rituals, creating the Freemasonic orders, stealing, kidnapping niggas, eating them, cooking them. That's Romanus Pontifex in the middle. That's the Antichrist. So you already had the Antichrist. You had Nero, you had Caligula, you had Romanus Pontifex, and then you could even take it to Pilate, being that he was the one in the story that kills Yeshua. So all the Antichrists already came. All that shit in Revelation was shit that Genghis Khan came and shut all them niggas down with. Think about it. All of these places, all of them kingdoms that you read about in the Bible and Revelation, they already gone. They're all gone. Euphrates been dried up. So it don't make sense that it happened now, especially when the nigga was saying, "Verily I say unto you, none of you shall see death before the coming of the Son of Man, and none of this generation shall pass away before you see the rising of the Son of Man." What does that mean? If I say verily, this shit is going to happen, do you think I'm talking to you about 3,000 years from now? Or am I talking to you about what's happening right now? Think about it. Think about it, man. Why, how could the time in which the so-called beginning of the so-called Old Testament and the rising of the new one and everything that happened in between, how was that covenant longer than both of those covenants existed together? So we still waiting? If I say verily unto you, none shall see me die, and none of y'all shall die until you see me come back, what does that mean? That means I'm coming back in your lifetime, right? That don't mean 3,000 years from now. Am I bugging? So in that time period, think of all of the free energy and all of the shit you see these big YouTube videos about. This is the time that all that shit happened. In these dark ages that they say they don't know what happened in, is when all of this is happening. And in those dark ages, they say who ruled? Who did they say ruled during that time? Who brought them out of the dark ages? And what happened after the dark ages happened? All of the destruction, all of the progress that was made under them eras was undone, and we fell under the brunt of that shit. Y'all don't see that's a coincidence? How is it we ruled for 1,000 years, but then they say Hitler wanted 1,000-year Reich? Then they say that the Jubilee and the Hebrew kingdom lasted for 1,000 years. This 1,000 years seem to be overlapping a lot of times. So that's what I'm saying, y'all. All that shit, the revelation, that's what to me, it makes sense if all that shit happened already. Because then that means that we're just basically, here as the mop-up crew. We just here to see all the lights get turned off and everybody's, chairs and everything get put back. We're supposed to go for everybody to go home. That's what I think is happening right now, B. That's the only thing that makes sense. Because we're the only people on earth now that's in this position that we in. Yet we still at the top. We the most hated and the most revered. Why? Because everybody has assumed an aspect of our identity and they not telling us, B. They always making you think, oh, they had to have opulent jewels and all that. Not every Moor was like that. This was the Sultan of Zanzibar at one point. On your left. You understand? Ruling during the period. In the middle is an Algerine noble. So that's what it is, nobles. Anybody have any other questions? Yeah, so look up the word center wave. So you get to understand what I'm saying about the vibration that everybody that was broken, which activated everybody's so-called Christ consciousness, in which now we erected the kingdom, that we made it so ill we don't forgot. And now we're starting to remember and starting to see who basically tried to operate it and dress up like us after we was gone. That's why you see a lot of those old Tartarian pictures. A lot of them dudes that's dressed as women. A lot of those women were actually women because there was no women. These niggas wasn't created with women somehow. So they had an era in their society where all of the men basically acted as women. To be a woman means that you got to be of the original seed, right? And all of that seed was shut down after the fall. So this is what's making more sense to me the more and more I'm going through it. Anybody have any questions? Yeah, all the first ladies are males. You dig? All of them. Anybody have any other questions? And then to add insult to injury, I don't know if you know, but this nigga King Charles done converted to Islam. You heard what I said? I said this nigga King Charles done converted to Islam, y'all. Think I'm playing. Look it up online, B. This nigga King Charles is a Moor now, son. Yo, hey, this shit is wild. Yeah, this nigga's like a mufti and all of that. Why you think he ain't put out no Lent address? You understand what I'm telling you? I'm telling you that the head of the Church of England is a Muslim. And a Satanist, nigga. You understand what you dealing with, bro? Look. Yeah, anybody that needs help or still is trying to deal with a nationalization situation, personally, whatever, just hit me up at houseofl@hotmail.com. I don't, do the package things and all of that. I'd rather work with people over the course of how I know to get it done. So yeah, this nigga's a Muslim and he's basically going, destroy the country in the process of that. But he's also a heavy Freemason, but he may probably be the last king of England. William ain't gonna be able to do it. So again, that's another country going into receivership that owe us a debt. So that's better for us. All of our enemies is falling in a row. I don't know if y'all realize it. Everybody that had anything to do with the destruction of the Moorish Empire is falling right now. And the Moors are being invoked more than anything else, whether it be through the tariffs, whether it be through the what you call it, the niggas doing. What's the other Muslim thing he said? It was the tariffs and the yeah, this is the gold. Remember, that's what I was saying too. Yeah, the gold. This is why he's hunting down the gold, because that's all the gold that gotta back the new currency. That's why they hiding it from him. That's the other thing he getting back, because they gotta put the gold back behind the money. Yeah, they gotta give it up. Why you think you ain't heard about the brick shit? Everybody trying to make you scared of bricks. Bricks gonna come and they gonna do this, do that. You really think Russia like China? You really think Russia like China? Nope. China do not like Russia, but they will work together. But Russia see China as fake communists, my nigga. That brick shit has been falling apart. That was propaganda too. Them niggas ain't trying to come out of that. Them niggas ain't trying to get all pool their money together like that, like that. Because remember, a quarter of every country in the world's people is over here. Think about that, bro. A quarter of everybody's. There's more Jamaicans the outside of Jamaica than are in Jamaica. Think about that. So imagine what that is for the other countries in this country. You bomb us, you bombing yourself. It's a wash. Probably some skirmishes and shit, but niggas don't want to fuck their money up, bro. In the end, it's always about money for these people, because that's the only thing that keeps them in power. So let's stop acting like these niggas is not trying to stop making money. And nobody makes money for the world like the original man, like the brain dead original man and original woman in America. Am I lying? I told you the Hype agency. There's a Korean agency called Hype. They done came in and bought up all of the music industry. These Korean niggas. That's why you're seeing all of these Asians all of a sudden exploding on your TV, because they trying to bring them in and get you used to them, so you can get ready for your Chinese overlords. Ain't nobody taking Hakami seriously, son. Niggas is not gonna stop listening to Nas to start listening to fucking Central C. I'm sorry, y'all. Sorry, it's not gonna happen. Doichi is not the new tribe, bro. It's not gonna happen. Next thing you're gonna do is see her in a video where she dressed like a robot and shit, and then after that you're gonna see her with some white boy, and then next thing you know she'll be, replaced by the next one. This is no thing. Anybody else? So definitely check out www.aseertheducateers.com. Definitely, if you haven't already, subscribe to ADOT app on Google Play and Apple Store. Definitely check out www.cordobaorganics.com. Definitely appreciate it. You know, yeah, they don't. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. They don't have none of this. They don't have no real say so in how this shit is gonna really go, bro. They don't. They just run around here and act like they do. You know. But yeah, also check out the darsco418.com as well as darsco418.net. Get your copy. I'm getting the new copies in. I had some issue based on the tariff thing on their end, but it looks good. So I have the new batch, new printings coming in. We're going into our ninth printing now. So thank you guys. Really appreciate it. I got the new joint coming soon too. As I showed you some clips, the newer pages look even better. So we got that. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Anybody else have any questions? Yeah, so Everybody coming into the Circle 7. Everybody coming back to the Moors. It's all coming back to us. So again, thank you guys for the $30 to money to Cash App to the money sign capital DS418.com, as well as through PayPal through ducateers@gmail.com. Thank you guys. And if anybody else has any other questions or help or need help with their processes, just let me know. All right. Thank you guys for the support. I appreciate you. Peace.